Thank you, Sir John. It is a pleasure to serve under your chairship today, and I'm also grateful to my honourable friend, the Member for Folkestone, for leading today's debate. I think all of us in this chamber today are agreed on one point. Hotels are simply not the right places to house anyone seeking asylum. They are used as hostels. They also are in areas which people feel very uncomfortable about. That is all clear to us. They are not homes. They do not offer the stability or dignity that people need to rebuild their lives. But nor do they allow for proper access to the services or integration into our communities that many of them wish to contribute to. The impact, as we've heard from many members, is felt locally. Public services are under pressure. Hard-working local taxpayers feel left out of the conversation. Those seeking asylum, often having fled conflict, persecution and trauma, are left in a state of uncertainty and unable to move forward with their lives. Tension is rising. Protests ensue. Fear is stoked. Concerns are weaponised. Communities feel demonised, and the dream of a tolerant, diverse Britain that we know and love comes under threat. But let me be clear, I will not and I will never be the type of politician that only exists to be against something. Neither I nor many members in this House came into politics to cause tension, stoke fear and weaponise concerns. That is the cheap and easy route, promising the quick fantasy fix. That is the politics of weakness. I came into politics to get stuck into the difficult business of being for a solution. So it can be the case that I both reject the use of hotels for asylum seekers and understand concerns about managing immigration levels fairly, while also rejecting those that wish to spin this broken record for votes until the sun goes down. It is time to roll up our sleeves collectively and fix this mess together. Let me remind all members here today that the previous Conservative government created this problem. We heard the Honourable Member of Bridgewater, who is no longer in his place, talk about the Rwanda scheme only. Happily do so.
I'm most grateful because he speaks passionately about all of us being keen to close down the hotels, including in my constituency of Boston and Skegness. He talks about being for things.
Yes.
So is he for moving asylum seekers who are here illegally into houses of multiple occupation, or is he for moving them into processing centres, such as reforms suggest, in remote locations?
Well, I'm for, as I will come to later in my remarks, I'm for reducing and speeding up the whole processing system and finding a more appropriate places rather than hotels. And there are a multitude of those, and this government, I'm sure the Minister will set out where we get to on that. But the point is this, is that we should all be agreed. We need to have a fair system. It needs to be fast, and it needs to actually deal with genuine asylum seekers, and that, unfortunately, is a broken system we currently have. But returning to what the previous Conservative government was apparently trying to do with its Rwanda system, well, they never gave us the chance. They never gave themselves a chance to see that one through. They knew perfectly well it wasn't working out, and they got themselves into all kinds of knots. And we then hear calls for leaving conventions. Look, you don't like one. You blame the European Union. Well, we've left the European Union with our hard Brexit. Immigration's gone up. So let's go and find something else. European Convention on Human Rights. When that's not working, what will it be next then? Refugee Convention. Oh, and while we throw all those rights out the door, well, we don't need any of that stuff. Who cares about life, freedom from torture? Who cares about these rights for all of us in this country? That just talking about so-called outdated laws is not the solution. We need far more practical solutions. The answer is to cooperate with our neighbours when this is not a British problem. This is a European and worldwide problem. And if we treat it as a British problem, we will never, ever get that solution. And then we have the other members in this room who seek to weaponise this for their own ends. It suits them to scaremonger about what is happening. I attempted to intervene at the Honourable Member for Runcorn and Helsby because I was going to ask her, where is our evidence? Where is our evidence for all of this, eh? Because that is what's happening. Those of us who deal and try and look at the facts, we are dealing with fake news. I get people on media who won't look at mainstream media, who won't trust journalists who look for second sources, but they'll happily share a faked video and send it all through. That is what is happening now. That is what the fear-mongering and the scaremongering that is coming from parties like Reform that thrive on division and hate. And so give me evidence. That is all I ask. Genuine evidence, not the fake news that we get on social media with all these fake videos that is going out there. I instead welcome a much more sensible and practical approach that this government is bringing to bear. The British people are a practical and pragmatic people that believe in fairness, and so does this Labour government. That is why I welcome the beginning of the returns agreement with our neighbour France. France has a major issue with illegal migration and asylum as well. So does Germany. So does the country I was born in Malta as well. People say we live in a small island. Malta's a small island, right? Much smaller than here. So this isn't just a British problem. We have to work together to find solutions, rather than running away from rules and clubs because we don't like it, so we won't play that game. So that agreement, France, that signals a more constructive approach. What is needed is cooperation, because we have a shared responsibility. And that initiative is not a silver bullet. Of course it isn't. But it is a practical step forward. Unlike using our overseas territories to host people, we had the Honourable Member for Runcorn not rule out the use of the Falklands. Islands that we fought for so hard in 1982 against Argentinian invasions, now apparently going to be used for dispersion. Didn't rule it out when she was asked to do so. Did not rule it out.
Literally said you would rule it out.
Under consideration. All right. Well, let's speak to our
Literally said
right,
you wouldn't rule it
right.
out. You literally said you wouldn't rule it out.
Have to take an intervention if you wish.
Your words.
By working with our European partners and other countries, we can better manage arrivals, reduce pressure on local services, and ensure that those seeking asylum are treated with fairness and dignity. But cooperation must be more than simply operational. That means tackling the criminal networks that exploit vulnerable people and ensuring that our asylum seeking is efficient and humane. Our communities want clarity. They want to know that the system is working, not just for those who come here in search of safety, but for our local communities as well. And that starts with policies that build on partnership, not posturing. So while I will always bang the drum for safer and stronger border management, I do not want us to turn our backs on those in need or give up on the multicultural Britain we know and love. Britain has long been a place of refuge and opportunity. We heard about the 250,000 Belgians this country gave refuge in the First World War, and then on to the Windrush generations, the frontline workers who kept our NHS going during the pandemic. Immigrants have always played a vital role in shaping our country for better. We have a legal and a moral responsibility to support those fleeing persecution. That means building an asylum system that is fair, efficient and humane, and one that doesn't leave people waiting in limbo for years. And at the same time, we must be firm where it matters. If someone comes to this country and breaks our laws, they should be removed. That is not about prejudice. It is about protecting the integrity of our system and the safety of our communities. That is something that those who come here legally and contribute greatly wholeheartedly support. Fairness matters to us all. So that balanced approach must guide us. We need to move away from the use of hotels, which were never designed for long-term accommodation. We must continue the work of clearing the backlog so that the decisions are made swiftly and fairly. And we must deepen our partnerships with international allies to address the drivers of migration at the source that affect all countries. And with that in mind, I would ask the Minister, how and when can local authorities be notified that their hotels in their area are being returned to public use? And what support will be provided to ensure a smooth transition for both our local communities and all of those applying for asylum? Thank you.